Hi, friends.
Hello, Poppets.
Howdy, y'all.
And welcome to Muppets, Sex, and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Costume Codex videos on YouTube.
I'm Jack Kramme, editor / right-hand man for Passion of the Nerd.
And my name is Josh Gosdin, and I'm just a big old nerd.
And that's enough. We're here today to talk about PK Tech Girl. PK Tech Girl was written by Nan Hagen. This is her only script for Farscape. She was a regular writer for Sliders and also for Dawson's Creek. Directed by Tony Tilsey. This is his directorial debut at Farscape, but he will go on to direct many of the best episodes, including my all-time favorite. The crew has stumbled on a derelict peacekeeper ship floating in space. Rygel recognizes it.
It's the Selbinian.
Once the flagship of the Peacekeepers, and more importantly, the first ship he was held captive on after he was deposed. Aeryn has heard of the ship and its famous Captain Durka.
She's been missing in battle for over 100 cycles.
Which gives us an idea how old Rygel might actually be. He, Zahn, and John want nothing to do with the ship, but Dargo thinks it might have useful navigational data, and Aeryn is curious, so she, Dargo, and John go investigate. They find the ship has been ransacked, and Dargo recognizes the work of the ruthless scavengers, the Sheyangs. But evidence suggests they aren't the only ones who have been here recently. In fact, they might not be the only ones on board right now. Hiding under a console, they find Jelena, a peacekeeper tech.
She is from Krace's ship.
It seems Krace came across the Selbinium, but was unwilling to abandon his search. He simply left Jelena behind with some guards to study the wreck. That's when the Sheyang attacked and Jelena survived by hiding. Everyone from Moya is hostile to Jelena, but John chooses to show her compassion because, well, he's John. Looking at the remains of Jelena's guards, there is a nasty shock for Aeryn. These were comrades from her unit. They were demoted because of her defection. There is another shock to come as the Sheyangs are returning, and there isn't time to escape. If escape isn't possible, is there anything they can use as a defense? Well, there is a defense screen aboard the Selbinium, and Jelena says she can get it working, but it will take time and she needs help. John volunteers to help, and Dargo returns to Moya. Rygel, meanwhile, has been struggling with PTSD about his time on the Selbinium. It seems the captain, Durka, was a nasty piece of work, who tortured Rygel for fun. But Zahn tells Rygel he must confront his demon,
Or they will chase you from the shadows to the pyre.
and so he explores the wreck in search of the remains of the captain, which in time he finds and confronts in a very Rygel kind of way. But back to the main plot. The Sheyang turn up and Dargo is forced to stall them by bluffing, something he's not entirely comfortable doing. On the Selbinium, John and Jelena are working together well. Very well. So well, it's making Aeryn uncomfortable.
Sorry for interrupting!
John tries to explain. Haven't you ever just clicked with a guy? And it seems she had. Thought she had.
In the beginning, I found you interesting.
Well, this is a bit awkward. Okay then, air cleared. Sort of. Oh, poor Aeryn. But damn, that girl is strong. On the Shang ship, there's some dissent. Not everyone is buying Dargo's bluff, and there's a mutiny. The mutineers shoot, but Jelena and John have managed to get the defense screen up. Well, mostly up. Enough to block this shot. They decided it might be more effective to move the screen to Moya, so John and Jelena get to work on that, with a bit more flirting on the side. The Sheyang then send pods to breach the ship, and one makes it through the defense screen. Aeryn fights the Sheyang, who it turns out spits fire. She gets to go full-on action hero and saves the day.
Sorry about the mess.
Knowing they can't survive more attacks, our crew decide that Jelena should signal Krace's ship so the Sheyang will leave, and they can skedaddle before he comes back. Is it safe, though? Will Jelena tell Krace they were here? No, Aeryn says.
The tech will not reveal our presence.
She would risk banishment, and Aeryn knows that is a fate worse than death. As the Sheyang depart, John and Jelena say a difficult goodbye, wondering what might have been, if only. And finally, when they are safely away, John seeks out Aeryn to see how she is after all she's been through.
Hey.
She says she doesn't want to talk, that he won't understand, but he shows her that he does. And for the first time, Aeryn acknowledges his compassion.
I stand corrected.
Oh, wow. I love this one. This was, oh, this was gorgeous. I really liked it. It was another one of those episodes where the opening made me think it was going a particular direction, and then it surprised me and did something completely different, which is great, I think. But yeah, overall, it had a great mix of action and suspense with a little bit of humor, and then some really emotionally impactful stuff. Like, wow, Josh, what did you think?
Oh, same, man. I really enjoyed it. I was very excited that we got so much like meat from so many different characters this episode. Like, pretty much the only person who didn't really get any development this episode was Pilot, and even then, you know, Pilot still got to be impactful in a couple of different ways, so that was cool. No, it was. I really enjoyed it as well.
This is kind of a fan favorite, and definitely one that I think is a big step forward. Remember how I told you that they started filming 2 episodes at a time?
Mm-hmm.
This is when they decided that they were going to stop doing that and focus on 1 episode at a time.
Yeah, that's.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I'm not so surprised to hear that, because this just feels more cohesive. It even feels like it has a bigger budget. Like it's just it's such a grander scale than everything that's come beforehand. And I think I've been enjoying our journey up to this point, but now I'm like really like, okay, I'm in. Like let's do this. I am down. Mark me down. Let's do it. Yeah.
Should we start with from the least development, and then we'll get to the more later? So should we start with Dargo and Zahn? Sort
of climax later, as it were.
Gotta build up to some things.
Indeed.
One thing that I really loved about Dargo in this episode is we see more of him stepping outside of Luxon culture and tradition in order to do the right thing and to like for the greater good. But at the same time, I love that he still has this reluctance to do it, because he's still Luxon and he still lives by a code. And I appreciate that, rather than just having him out of nowhere like abandon that and do a 180 and just turn his back on all of those sort of Luxon principles. It just makes it more believable for me. And I mean, I love the scene where he flies into a rage, and Zahn's just like, wait, let me get you on the I forget the word for it, but get you on the teleprompter thingy or whatever it is. And then there's this strange moment where he starts speaking gibberish, and I'm not sure if they were trying to show us like the Luxon language without the fancy transcoder thingy. I forget what it's called again. Or whether he was just so angry he started screaming gibberish, which, I mean, either or, I'm down.
We've all been there.
I think maybe the translator microbes have some limitations, and right. He was just, or maybe they have a decency filter or something. His
rage just reached a critical mass, and it was so fun to watch. I love that. Anthony Simcoe really knocked it out into the park in this one. Yeah, I think that's all I've got on Dargo. I love that where he's really becoming a far more complex and interesting character. I think I said in the beginning that I found him a little one-dimensional, but now he's really becoming like a character that I can get into more, and I'm really enjoying that.
I really enjoyed Dargo in this episode also. I found it was kind of an interesting route to take with his culture and with his warriorness, where he was like, I could never lie to an enemy, and I was watching and I was like, how did anybody ever win anything in your society? Like, and it was an interesting. It turned into an interesting, though, like, I guess, dissection or unpacking about what does it mean to be strong. Like, who is the strongest in battle? Because it's not always the one who has the most might or the most power. Because there's also brain strength, for want of a better term. There's being clever, and clearly Dargo had never considered beforehand that was applicable in a battle. And I really just I also enjoyed the Dargo gibberish, and my headcanon is that the translator Mecca was working fine. He just got so enraged he just started losing language. And
That's the more fun explanation, I think.
Haven't we all been there? Haven't we all been so
Yes.
upset in one form or fashion that we just but it cracked me up, kind of the dynamic that developed between him and Zahn in this episode, where she was like the director, and she's like, "Oh, that's perfect. Let's hold that."
Yeah, she's feeding him lines. That was great.
Yeah, and she's like, "Pilot cut to 2," and she kept orchestrating the scene. It was fun. It was one of the few genuinely comic kind of moments in this episode, which, going from pissing fire to this, damn, Farscape.
Yeah, agreed.
Talking about the change from pissing fire to this, should we move to Rygel?
Oh,
My boy.
I told you we were going to be dealing with PTSD. Did you guys think we were going to be dealing with it from Rygel?
No, Sarah, when you mentioned that this episode dealt with trauma and PTSD, I wasn't expecting it to be Rygel at all.
Same.
when we first saw Jelena, I thought, oh yeah, this is our trauma patient here. But no, it absolutely wasn't. I didn't quite get what was going on with Rygel at first. Just whether because it begins with him seeing Captain, I forget the captain guy, whatever his name was, and I thought, yeah. Durka? Yeah, Captain Durka, and I thought it was happening in real time at first. And then, of course, we find out that it's flashbacks and he's dealing with some PTSD. But I love that scene where Zahn finds him cowering and hiding amongst all those. They look like suitcases, but they couldn't have been suitcases. But I mean, the scene itself is great. How she encourages him to seek out Durka's corpse and confront his demons and get some closure. But from an aesthetic point of view, I love the lighting in that scene as well. It's such a pretty shot. Oh, and at the very start of the episode, we start with the close up of Rygel's eye. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty eye, and then it pans out. I'm like, oh, it's Rygel. Then of course we get that scene towards the end where he finds the body of Captain Durka, and realizing he died, but by his own hand. And I love how in that moment Rygel realizes how little power this dead corpse has over him now, and in that realization he finds his own power. That was so beautiful, and I love the line. You robbed me of so many cycles, but no matter what you did to me, I'll always remember one thing: you lose. And then, of course, he hooks up a loogie and spits it at him, which is just great.
It's just very Rygel.
Very Rygel.
Yeah. And overall, though, it was just done really, really well. It made me feel lots of things, and it was all very emotive, and which is incredibly impressive since they were able to put across so much emotion with the puppet. I've made it clear how how much I love silly, crazy, disgusting Rygel, but I loved being able to see his serious side here and seeing him deal with his damage and overcome it. I especially loved the line Zahn says to him, "How long have we known each other, Rygel?" And he says, "Long enough for me to see your blue backside meditating, but not enough for you to touch me." Like, it's just there's so much wrapped up in that line. It's funny, but it's also like, my boy. Yeah, Josh, what did you think, sir?
Oh, I just had a blast with Rygel's arc this episode. I found the format to be unique because it's and I realized this episode that they've done this a few times so far, where there's been an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot. And it was interesting to me that the C plot in this episode didn't really have any impact on the actual story at all. Like, it was literally just Rygel processing his trauma. And I appreciated the decision to, I guess, like, you know, from a writing standpoint, to give that story its opportunity to just exist, you know, and not attaching it to the plot, not attaching it to the overarching story. In some ways, elevated the emotional importance of it. It didn't have to be plot relevant in order for it to exist, in order for it to be there. You know, somebody's trauma is significant regardless of what kind of a contribution it makes, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really liked that. When we got towards the end of the episode and I realized that nothing he was doing, quote unquote, mattered to the story, I was just like, this is nice, you know? And I really enjoyed also how they did the flashbacks. Because, yeah, the first time that Durka popped up, it was like, hello, Rygel. And he got me too. And I was like, oh my God, there's another survivor. And so now this is the thing. And no, it was just his flashbacks. But when it comes to that kind of PTSD-edness in real life, my impression is, and I've never experienced PTSD, at least not on a scale that large to where I'm that aware of it before, but I'm told that the flashbacks don't happen like they do in the TV shows and in the movies. There's not a flash. You know, it just exists, like, with you. And so the format and the effect choice of Rygel's flashbacks to just cut in the same scene or do a whip pan or something like that, and they barely blurred. There was just the softest blur over the flashback scenes, but there was no, like, it wasn't like wavy camera, you know, it wasn't a lot of the tropes that we see in a lot of TV shows and movies. It was just, he was there and it was there with him, and I loved that. I love that so much. It was so good.
That's such a beautiful detail, man. I didn't pick that up in that way. You know, that's really well done. Now that you've pointed it out.
It's difficult to talk about this without spoiling any of the rest, but I think because we named the show Muppet Sex and Trauma, you know that there's going to be a lot more dealing with trauma. And I really appreciate that this is our first introduction to that. It's interesting to do it with a puppet. And it's the fact that they don't need to show us actual horror. They don't need to show us what Durka did to show us the effect that it had on Rygel. And we get the sense, like, that, you know, sort of, in this case, Durka is kind of living in his head, living with him. We get the sense that Durka is kind of living in his head, like he's present with him. And it's a really clever way of sort of presenting the way trauma can, when there are traumatic things, and I've had some experience with trauma. I haven't been tortured or anything like that, but I've had some experience with trauma. and sort of like the person who hurt you can sort of feel like they are taking up space in your head, like they are living with you and they're interfering in your life. And so we get like a microcosm of that in this episode with Rygel, and it does give us a roadmap for looking at trauma in the future, in this small story. And it's just really cleverly done, and it's amazing how much they can do with a puppet to show that, you know, he's having physical reactions to all this, and, you know, he's like, when he's hiding in the cargo bay, I think that he's hiding, like, he is he's having physical responses. He's struggling, and he seems to be sometimes struggling, what is reality, and the fact that they can show that to us so well is just it's remarkable. I mean, that they can do that. It's great direction and writing and exceptional puppeteering.
Yeah.
That they can do all that with a puppet as a B story to an episode that is quite plot intensive. And has quite a lot. This is the reintroduction of the Peacekeepers again. This is giving us a first time we've brought in someone from Krace's ship since the Marauders, and they weren't it's really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just done with such tenderness and care, and I want to say honesty too. Like,
big time.
and it really is a testament to the writing, as you said, Sarah, but also Jonathan Hardy's voice acting. Like, he brought his A game as well, and it's just. I was stunned because so in so many of those scenes, I kind of forgot that I was looking at a puppet. Like, it's just so emotive, and I've honestly never seen anything quite like it, and I'm very impressed. Everybody just brought their A game. The puppeteering, the voice acting, the writing, just love it.
In some of those scenes, the puppet was the only character present.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really good, and I really liked. I also really liked the pullback from his eye. I was getting like Contact vibes, not corrective lenses, but the film Contact. I just realized that could be confusing. I was getting Contact vibes when they pulled back from his eye, and I think that also really goes to a lot of what you were talking about, Sarah, about how it just seeing that ship, we're immediately placed into Rygel's fearful perspective in this episode, and the presence of those memories that have been with him. I make up in every previous episode, especially where we've encountered the Peacekeepers. And so that's one of my favorite things to do with this kind of storytelling is to sort of retroactively apply what we learned to previous episodes and previous character interactions and stuff. And it was just so good with Rygel. This episode was just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we understand more now about why he feels about the Peacekeepers the way that he does.
Yeah, and also why he's such a dick, because
he's been through some shit.
People hurt people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's so much more understandable now. He's not just a dick. He's hurting. He's suffering.
Yeah, it's not just about him being an entitled prick.
Yeah.
Because of his Dominar days. It is also, that, and then he got hurt a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Oh. He had his own, personalized cage.
Yeah.
That hurt to see.
Yeah. Just, yeah, I love it so much.
And, okay, someone else to talk about. John and Jelena.
Okay, Jelena. It was wonderful to see a recognizable Australian face. That was Alyssa Jane Cook, a very well-known Australian actress. She was great. Does John, he doesn't know who he wants to bang. What the hell, dude? What the absolute hell? Look, I get it. He's surrounded by some very beautiful people, but at first we, in the very beginning, we wonder if there's some sexual tension between him and Aeryn. Then last episode, I thought they were setting up a thing with him and Zahn, and now he's hooking up with some chick he just met. What the hell, dude? Jesus Christ.
He's lonely.
Yeah, I know, I get it, but I'm just like, what is this show doing? Like, does everyone just want to bang at everybody else? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
No, it sounds like you do get it. That is what is happening.
It's just like everybody has sexual tension with everybody, and I don't know, but like it's fine. But like, what are we gonna get next? Like Rygel and Pilot, like giving each other like fuck me eyes.
Don't do this to me, Jack.
But I absolutely loved the scene where Jelena's standing in front of him and then sort of like backs up into him, and then she goes, "It seems human and Sebastian men are much the same." And I'm like, he's got a boner.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
He's got a boner. Like, I love that this show goes there. Like, you don't really see that in this kind of sci-fi. It's so good.
They don't have to actually say it to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It just
that cracked me up.
Ben Browder again like nails it in this episode. He's a great actor. He's very funny. He's good at doing the action thing, and overall, yeah, it was great. I'm just wondering who he's gonna actually end up with, if he ends up with anyone at all, because he seems to just wants to bang at everybody, and that's okay. That's okay.
I mean, I don't blame him.
Same.
I don't disagree.
Neither.
with that aspiration.
Because like it's like they set something up and then they go to something else. I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing, show?
It's so human. I mean, maybe this is me roasting myself a little bit, but you know, having more than one love interest at a time seems pretty relatable to me.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you're lost in space.
Especially when you're lost in space, which
yeah.
You know, but different people appealing to different parts of oneself, not really being able to help who you find attractive, and also, and this is part of what I make up about all this, is that his surprise when Aeryn was like, I mean, I was kind of into you for a minute, buddy. I took as he was also into her around the same time, and was like, clearly this isn't going to happen, so I'll move on. Like, he didn't take any steps to you know, to try to see if the interest was reciprocated or anything like that. He just decided for himself, like, I'm not gonna pursue this, and just moved on. You know, and so, or tried to, which also feels pretty relatable and pretty human. You know, and I keep loving how grounded this show is, with its kind of relational interactions and everything like that. It's just so good. Yeah. What was the name of the actress? Jelana's actress?
Alyssa Jane Cook.
I don't blame John in the slightest if she sat on my lap while we were hot and sweaty and pulling apart machinery.
I feel you, buddy. I feel you.
Now.
Very attractive lady.
Let's.
You know, and she felt like a good love interest for John also, because they were able to relate intellectually. They weren't just hot for teacher for each other. They were able to like connect on an intellectual level, which that was nice to see as well. And apparently John is a doctor, so cool Dr. Crichton.
Oh yeah, he's a scientist.
Yeah, but not all scientists are doctors.
A bit of everything, it seems. I think Jelena also had this sort of this sweetness about her, this gentleness about her that I really liked.
Yeah, I read it not as about being hot for each other, although I think that was part of it. I think it began with they work well together and they have connections, and John has been sort of desperate to make connections and for intimacy, you know, intellectual and emotional. And there's someone there who is just completely open. When everybody else has been very closed to him, apart from Zahn, but that's in a sort of different kind of way.
Zahn is broadly open.
Yeah. And like, there's on Jelena's behalf, like, he is a hot man who just kind of rescued her and is treating her with respect, which it doesn't seem like she gets from anybody.
It doesn't seem like anybody in the Peacekeepers gets respect.
Yeah, and definitely we get the sense that techs are not held in high regard. So to me it feels like a very natural, as quick as it is, it doesn't feel like, a lot of the sci-fi ones, it's like, hey, or even a lot of the things, what Lonnie refers to as I'm hot, you're hot, let's be hot together. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like you're smart, I'm smart, we're both desperate for connection, and we're working together, and isn't this sexy?
Right.
And, like, yeah, there is a... Yeah, there is a connection that...
Yeah. It's called propinquity.
Oh, that's a cool word.
That's
what does that mean?
Fancy word.
It is a tendency for human beings to form emotional bonds and attachments when they are placed in similar circumstances repeatedly.
Oh.
It's why workplace romances exist.
It's why showmances happen on
Exactly.
plays, yeah.
Because if you're all going through the same shit together, and there's a vulnerability that goes along with that. If you get to see people on set or on stage in different levels of vulnerability than other people get to see them, and likewise you, it sort of hastens along the emotional attachment. Propinquity.
Nice.
Yeah, that's. I learned something today. Thanks, Josh.
Yay! Big brain Josh brought us a new word.
Happy to help.
I also want to say Ben Browder might be the best comedic actor on this show. I really loved the line. Well, just ask Leonardo DiCaprio. Even the big ones go down. Holy dated reference, Batman.
Not in 2000.
No, not then, of course. But yeah, like he's obviously talking about Titanic, but I'm sure that would go over a lot of younger people's heads today. Because it's not super specific. It's a tiny bit vague. There's something out of that feels vague, but I don't know, man. Maybe I'm getting old, but I'm loving the dated references. I feel like we had one last time, but I can't remember what it was.
There was a Mad Max Thunderdome reference in the last one.
Right.
I mean, it's always pop culture that makes sense for John's age at that time.
Yeah. I just love that stuff. I love that he keeps bringing up Earth stuff, and everybody's like, "What?
What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
most of the time, he doesn't explain what's fiction and what's not.
Yeah, he just goes with it.
He just lets it go. It's great.
Yeah, it's just kind of John's way. How was that word again?
Propinquity.
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 It's I'm gonna if I don't think any of my students watch this podcast, but if they do, they'll recognize that because it's literally a point of training.
Okay.
In our workplace, where I caution them against inter-office romances.
although sometimes those things can develop into great things. A couple I was in a play with, they weren't a couple when it started, but it's been a while and they are still together.
It
So
can go well.
sometimes it can go well, sometimes it can fall apart.
So, the Peacekeepers are apparently one of the meanest, shittiest societies ever. Because it takes this is the second time that we've seen this. Really the third. It takes so little effort for them to get Jelena on their side. Like John is literally baseline human interaction nice to her. He isn't even flirting with her yet. He's just like, hey, person whose personhood I respect. Would you mind helping us not die? And she's like, I'm completely devoted to all of you now. was almost exactly the same with Aeryn in Premiere, and it's interesting to me also that Aeryn treats Jelena the same way that she was treated in Premiere. So I don't actually read. I'm looking forward to learning more about the caste system in the Peacekeeper ranks, but I'm not reading a caste disparity. I'm reading hurt people hurt people.
I think that too, but there is definite disdain, I think, when she talks about why was her unit stuck watching someone like you.
Right, but there was
that's
almost identical disdain when the Peacekeepers were talking to her in Premiere.
Yes. But they may have been above her in rank as much as... Yeah. So shall we start talking about Aeryn then?
Let's talk about Aeryn, man.
Aeryn, she's such a badass, man. She's so badass. Aeryn was basically, she was Ellen Ripley in this episode. Like, she was just insanely badass. And speaking of Alien, right, there was like this whole, well, not the whole episode, but so much of this episode had a very Alien/Aliens, Alien 3 vibe, like boarding an abandoned ship, finding a lone survivor. And I don't know, it's like even Aeryn is dressed very much like Ripley and carries a similar shaped gun that the Ripley carries. That can't be, the whole two-handle thing, that can't be an accident. And I'm not calling it plagiarism. It is a wonderful homage, and I love it so much. But even like the interior of the ship reminds me of the prison in Alien 3, which apparently I looked it up. Parts of this episode were filmed in an abandoned power station in Sydney, somewhere, White Bay or something like that. But yeah, they just lucked out, and I loved when they first board the ship and they walk down this creepy, dimly lit like corridor, and Aeryn just leading them with the gun. I'm like, this is Alien. I'm watching Alien, and I love this. But Aeryn's just, I don't know what to say other than she's just such a badass, and I love her. And then we get to see more of her like grappling with her past and like trying to shrug it off, but she's also, much like with Dargo, that we haven't had this thanks Doc I'm all cured moment. She's still struggling and trying to push through the blocks, which is great. And I love that we get a little bit of jealousy from her with John and Jelena, but she just won't admit it. She's just nope. And I love the line where she picks up this big tank or something. She's like, sorry for interrupting. Like, the way she said it cracked me up. Like, it was just like, what?
Very clean air.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, it took me out of it for a moment, but not in a bad way. I'm just like, that is a hilarious delivery of the line. But yeah, look, Aeryn is amazing. Claudia Black is amazing, and I love her. Josh, what do you got?
I'm glad you pointed out the Aliens homage, because the entire episode I was trying to figure out, I was like, where have I seen that gun before?
Right?
And that, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely, when she goes down to the Queen's Nest to rescue Newt, that's absolutely the thing. So, nice. Yeah, Aeryn, I'm about to, I don't know, man. I loved this character in this episode so much, I'm about to lose my fucking mind.
I feel you, brother.
Before your very eyes.
Let us have it.
So, like, first of all, if Aeryn soon wanted to lift me over her head,
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you.
Listen.
I think we're all with you.
or Claudia Black for that matter. But
she could slap me around and call me Susan.
Right. She could blow me apart with her. Anyways, so
now.
I loved the I'm just here to live my best life.
We should keep it to the character.
It's in our name. Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
She this whole episode just was so like just amazing, just fantastic. I'm really having a hard time articulating this emotion. I think that a big chunk of it is related to her just like ongoing evolution. Mm-hmm. You know, and we ended this episode with her like in tears, like when Gelato reached out and shook her hand at the end of the episode. Claudia Black like squeezed out so many tears. That's the most that we've ever seen Aeryn emote at all. And it was just so affecting. Like that goodbye I almost valued more than the goodbye kiss, you know? But she was just such a badass all fucking episode. And I just love
the fact that they managed to mix her being a complete badass, absolutely. She's Ripley and she's Sarah Connor all rolled into one.
Yep.
With this intense, amazing vulnerability as well. Mm-hmm. This is why I love this show. This is why I love this character so much. Because she gets to be the complete badass that saves the day. Because John is incapacitated with the thingy-mees. That, like, she is allowed to be, like, you know, fly in on the chain with the big gas gun and full-on superhero.
Yeah.
While also in other moments being this intensely vulnerable, like, girl who didn't know how to express that she liked a boy, and then he ended up liking somebody else, and she didn't say that she had liked the boy, and it's like, we get both of these things, and also, like, the seeing her former comrades have been put in danger because of her, have lost rank that we know matters. We can clearly see that it matters to her.
Yeah. Because
of her, because of what she's done, and, you know, and all this, and then the end moment when she accepts compassion from John, when she recognizes that he actually does know what she's going through. I mean, I love this character so much. I love this episode.
And she acknowledges it in such an Aeryn way by not really acknowledging it. She just like walks away like, yeah, I see you, girl. I see you.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I appreciated so much about her this episode was, I don't know, there's got to be a word out there that means vulnerability, authenticity, and honesty all rolled into one. And I have an English degree in it. And thank you.
Rygel too, really.
I haven't mentioned that I have an English degree in a while, so I'm contractually obligated. So yes, for sure the vulnerability of not knowing what to do with one's feelings, but her willingness to just face John so often and so honestly in this episode genuinely moved me. Like in any other show, that moment in the hallway where she's doing, and he catches up to her and he's like, it's fine. Haven't you ever just clicked with somebody? And she went, yeah, you. In any other show, she wouldn't have admitted that she ever was into him. But that they went there, that they gave her character the opportunity to go there, and it has the effect of bringing the two of them closer. Like, that conversation is why that final scene is allowed to exist, where she, is allowed to accept his compassion, and in a very Aeryn way, and like I stand corrected. But
or in another show that would have gone to them getting together, but no.
Yeah.
Right. Or
just a step forward.
One or the other. Like, it would have either changed their relationship dynamic, or it would have endured as like Aeryn has a secret kind of a thing for multiple episodes. But she was just like, yeah, you. And then at the end of the episode, when they have that conversation, that's intimacy. That's intimacy. Intimacy, that's the word. That's intimacy. Yes. Much more than necessarily just having an attraction for somebody. That's intimacy that they're developing. Yeah. So their relationship continues to be one of my favorite parts about this show.
It really is her vulnerability that makes her feel like a fleshed out, well-rounded character. Because I think in media, when we see a strong female character, they often forget to make her a character. They make her this hardened, like, just steel gaze, like they are often missing the vulnerability, the human component, and it's so important. Otherwise, it's like we're just staring at a caricature of a strong person. Mm-hmm. There's so much to say about Aeryn in this episode that it leaves you speechless. Like, you don't know what to say. It's just that good. It's just stunningly good.
I think also there was a really great dynamic between Aeryn and John in their initial interactions with Jelana. When she was trying to interrogate Jelana and invoke authoritarianism and fear and all that kind of stuff, and he was also interrogating her, like 100% also interrogating her, but he was invoking compassion and empathy, the same things that she remembered helped her. Mm-hmm. And so she was able to see that he wasn't actually working against her, he was working with her. And she let him.
Yeah.
I also, just quickly, I love the line, "This is my world, John, don't interfere." Like, oh, step back, whoa. She's very intimidating when she wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
We also learn this is the environment she grew up in. Mm-hmm. We have that whole discussion where he is used to, earth and trees and all of that, and this is her world.
Right, yeah.
What a world to grow up in.
Dehumanizing. It's desensitizing.
Very much so, yeah.
Also, you notice, like, this ship has been missing for over 100 cycles. Mm-hmm. So for over 100, and yet the tech doesn't seem to have changed that much. Mm-hmm. I think that says quite a bit about we learn a lot about the Peacekeepers in this episode, and I think that's one of the things that we have to think about is, like, this is a society that hasn't changed in at least 100 cycles. Not much anyway.
Right. Do we know how long a cycle is, though? Because I find it confusing. I'm like, 100 cycles, is that a long time? Is that like 3 months, or is it like 6 years? What?
Cycles are meant to represent years.
Yeah, okay. So 100 years?
We did learn a lot about the Peacekeepers in this episode. One of the things that we learned about came from a line that Aeryn had and a line that Rygel had about, I guess, kind of the nature of the Peacekeepers. So up until this point, I've had a picture in my head. The Peacekeepers are the Empire from Star Wars. Like, they dominate and possess an area of territory, and they subjugate those within that area. But in this episode, Aeryn says the Peacekeepers are often contracted to do things. She lists off a few things, like kidnap, kill, whatever. And then Rygel later on is like, when the Peacekeepers toppled me and took me, like when Durka took him off of his throne and kidnapped him, basically. And so now it's got me wondering, like, how much are they actually the Empire, and how much are they private military contractors, where someone is, wants to blow things up and have dirty work done, and they call the Peacekeepers, Mm-hmm. So it was interesting, kind of a new dynamic, because I can't see the Empire. I can't see anybody in the Star Wars universe hitting up the Galactic Empire and being like, "Hey, can you kidnap somebody for me?"
I think they're kind of both. I think, yeah, there's a sense they are cops and sort of paramilitary, but also that they're kind of fascist and have. So I think they control some, and maybe where they're called in, they don't leave. Oh. In a lot of places, they're called in and they don't leave. I mean, we don't get a lot of specifics. I think that sort of what we do get lets us fill in a picture in our heads, and I think this isn't long after, this was made in 2000, so like the Gulf War was still in living memory. I mean,
Right.
it is now, but it's more recent. Yeah. And like that sort of thing where, you go in to protect democracy. They were just about to start a war where you go in, another 2 wars where you go in to spread democracy and don't leave. I think the fuzzy edges serve the fiction quite well.
Sure.
We haven't talked about Zahn yet. Can we talk about Zahn?
Oh yeah.
Beautiful, empathic, wonderful Zahn. She's like wrapping her arms around everybody, helping them come into their power, find themselves, and confront their deep demons. She's such a beautiful, wonderful, loving soul, and I either want to date her or I want her to adopt me. I'm not sure which one. Like, she's just wonderful, man. I particularly love the line, confront your demons, Rygel, or they will chase you from the shadows to the pyre. The writers must have a lot of fun writing her because she just gets all the good stuff. I wish I had more to say other than she's just wonderful, but she's just wonderful, and I love her so much, and I never want her to leave.
They really are forming out the 5-man band quite well. We've got, Rygel is kind of the rogue or the whatever, and Aeryn is the lancer, and Zahn is the cleric.
Yeah, and she's just she comes across as very selfless too, because I don't think I've seen her really say anything selfless or selfish or purely self-motivated. She's all about helping people, and that's just wonderful. I love it.
Zahn is definitely wonderful, especially in this episode. I was mentioning earlier, I really liked her in the director's chair, so to speak, on Moya. But it was really funny to me also. Again, we've got Zahn, like you said, wrapping her arms around everybody, but from my perspective, she's like running around and like trying to keep all of these emotional colanders from losing their water. She's like,
that's a great way to
take
put
care
it.
Of you, yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
And she obviously she's really good at it, of course, but it's so fascinating to me. One thing that I forget every once in a while is that they were all prisoners of the Peacekeepers, including her, and like, so we know Rygel's deal. He was deposed, and in this episode we found out that he was specifically like extracted by the Peacekeepers. We know John's deal and Aeryn's deal because we got to see them. We have some hints about Dargo's deal, but we also know that he was considered extremely like violent and dangerous by the Peacekeepers. There's some hints about Pilot's deal. I don't really feel like I have a good grasp on why Zahn was a prisoner.
No,
and obviously that's story fodder for later. But in this episode specifically, I was like, when they sat around the table at the end and were discussing what to do, I was like, oh yeah, Zahn was also a prisoner.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean. Yeah, we don't know a lot about her. Like, she was a priestess or something, right? At some point. But yeah, we don't necessarily know what her quote unquote crime was. Which, I mean, for the peacekeepers, it could just be not being a peacekeeper.
She did say in the premiere that she was something of an anarchist.
Oh, which is just. I love that because I get what she's saying too, because she's like she's not an anarchist in the anarchy symbol and mohawks and sticking it to the man. She's more like an anarchist in the like she's the chaotic good character. She's yeah.
Things will be revealed in time.
I'm sure.
I'm glad.
So, do we have any thoughts on the wider scope of this episode? Because I think there is a real theme here of loss.
Loss. Okay. Well,
You know.
why don't you take the mic and
Well,
tell
I
us
mean,
what you mean there.
I've said before that I think loss is in many ways the theme of this season. There's another theme that is building, but a lot of it comes out of loss. And so we see Rygel. Part of Rygel's trauma is, and one of the things he talks about is what he's lost, the years that were taken from him by Durka. That's part of his pain. And we see Aeryn reckoning with the loss of her people, being really confronted with it. And confronted also with the loss of her comrades. Like, those were people she fought with, that she, the guy who was burned beyond recognition is someone that she fought beside and flew beside. So she's got to reckon with that loss. She sees Jelena go back to what she can never return to.
Right.
Which we get a lot of pain. And John, I think John is sort of to come so close to having a connection with someone like him, but then that is impossible because of the situation they're in. So again, he's dealing with not only this loss, but the loss of, we don't know what opportunities he was having back home. We know he had a best friend that he did experiments with and stuff. He had people he connected with on the same, who worked with him and who were into the same stuff he was into with his doctorate and everything. But in losing Jelena, he's sort of losing them again. Dargo and Zahn, the threat of of being captured again with the nearness of the peacekeepers. I think there is a sense there as well, although it's low key on them. The time lost to captivity. And the fact that Dargo goes to the ship because he is desperate for navigational data. He wants... That's a small detail.
I caught that.
I like that.
But he wants charts to find his way home.
Oh.
So throughout, there's a lot of, and Jelena has to make a choice. By going back, she's going to lose this connection that she has with John.
Right.
Or she could lose everything the way Aeryn has.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's really good. For me, what I picked up on was, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I can concur with everything you've said there. I think it's wonderful and it's all there, like absolutely. But I didn't necessarily pick up on loss. I picked up on, as I've already talked about, people stepping into their power, becoming better versions of themselves. It's most apparent with Rygel, but we get it from Dargo as well. He's stepping out of Luxon tradition for the great and the good. And of course, again with Aeryn, she's stepping further and further away from her peacekeeper past, and we even get it with Jelena, who's come to realize that she doesn't have to be like a puppet of the peacekeepers; that she can be her own. Yeah, I know. I said puppet. I know.
Sorry.
I know. As soon as I said it, I'm like, oh, that was a bad choice of words.
No, it's a good choice of words.
Perfect choice of words.
I just couldn't help giggling.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was all about people finding themselves, becoming better versions of themselves, and stepping into their power, which I think is just gorgeous.
Well, see, I think that the two themes work together because sometimes to step into your power, you have to reckon with what you've lost.
Right.
Or stepping into something sometimes means you have to lose things.
We're stepping out of something.
It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Sorry to quote Tyler Durden, but that's the first thing I thought of.
There was an interesting moment where Aeryn referred to her life with the Peacekeepers as, she either called it the life that I loved or everything that I loved, but she used the word love.
Mm-hmm.
And the looks that she got from the people around her, from Dargo and from John, of like, you loved this? Like, that was... I loved how complicated that moment was. You know, because she's talking to victims of the Peacekeepers saying, man, I miss victimizing people. But also, she's talking to her friends and saying, I lost a lot.
Mm.
And like, both realities can be true.
Right.
It was there were a lot of like little moments this episode. I feel.
Yeah, because whether what she was doing with the Peacekeepers was right or wrong, she still had safety, shelter. Like,
it was her life. It was all she knew.
Yeah,
she was the pilot. She was good at it.
Yeah. Like she had purpose and probably had connections, fellowships, stuff like that. So whether she was doing the right thing or the wrong thing, of course, she is going to grieve that.
Mm-hmm.
It was all she knew.
Yeah. We mourn which we lose.
Well, do we have any thoughts on that final scene?
I mean, I just like it. I don't know what to say. I think it's just really gorgeous, well acted, very emotive. I wish I had something just smart to say about it, but I don't. It's just a wonderful scene. One about you guys.
I kind of obliquely gushed about it earlier, and I was gushing about Aeryn in this episode, but I really love the way that they're developing John and Aaron's relationship. It feels so emotionally honest and intimate, like I said. You know, and it's not just what Lonnie would refer to as two hot people being hot together. Like their relationship isn't necessarily being developed on attraction.
Yeah.
It's being developed on getting to know each other.
Hmm.
You know?
And that's real intimacy. That is like in any other show they would be together, and I love that they're not actually doing that. They're finding a common ground that doesn't include them sleeping with each other.
I recognized also in this episode a pattern of I believe the term is blocking, when actors are positioned a certain way on a set, blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's a pattern of blocking whenever John and Aeryn are together, where they're either shoulder to shoulder or they're facing each other squared.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really appreciating that. That kind of like subtlety of them like it continues to frame them as equals, and it continues to frame them as together, one way or the other, you know. So if they're shoulder to shoulder, then they're mutually supporting each other, and if they're squared off and facing each other, then they're fully, like in that hallway conversation, they're fully engaged with each other, and I love it so much.
Yeah, and there's something vulnerable about that, like exposing your entire body to someone. It's so much more confronting.
Bit of a film studies flex here.
Okay.
So one of the elements of the male gaze, because there's a lot, is the way that is done through blocking. That usually, when they frame a man and a woman, they will frame her through his eyes, and frame him over her shoulder.
Oh.
So we don't usually see things through her eyes. There's an unevenness there. That frequently it's difficult to say without showing. My professor would give you would show examples, but particularly in old-fashioned cinema, you would have repeatedly you would see through his eyes, and you would often see the woman looking down towards the woman, for one thing, and sort of in a depowered position.
Mm-hmm.
In order, the whole thing is it's sort of like making him a subject by making her an object. complicated.
Yeah.
Go read your Laura Mulvey. But this is actually more along what we would term the female gaze, which is often co-opted to say, that you're treated as if, looking through the eyes of the woman. But no, looking at them on even footing. If we frame one of them over the shoulder, we frame both of them over the shoulder. If we frame through one of them's eyes, we frame through both of their eyes. Or we see them both together on even level. And it's such a subtle, simple bit of direction to treat two characters as equal. And this is one of the reasons why you often get same-sex shipping, people shipping two male characters, is because, and particularly women shipping two male characters, is because you don't usually see the man and the woman treated as equals.
Oh, okay.
The woman is usually framed to be sort of lower powered, sort of more of the object than the subject. But when you have two males interacting, it will be on even footing. It will be this sort of framing, and so that way they both become subjects. So when you're wanting to sort of invest in a relationship, even if their romantic is sort of something you have to read into it, you read into two people who are respecting each other and on even footing, like, say, Spock and Kirk. They're always on equal footing in the framing. Spock or Kirk and any woman, it's always, even Edith Keeler. She is, in the object position, beneath. Here, it's such a simple thing to treat the two of them as equals, as both subjects, and to give equal weight to the framing and direction of her, just as they give at least as much weight.
Yeah.
At this point in the story, I think there's more weight on Aeryn's arc than there's on John's.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, it's fantastic.
That's a thing we're gonna see shift and change.
Okay.
Yeah, the fact that she is given so much room, especially right now, to grow, and it's just fabulous. It's one of the reasons like this just is so well made.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that, because it's just something that I didn't really consider, but it does. The way that scene is framed makes it, I don't know, it gives more power to it for both of them. Yeah.
It's a portrait.
Yeah. And I'm also glad that we're gonna get a little more John, because even though he's our protagonist, he's kind of the least interesting so far for me. But I'm sure that'll change. And
Yes.
I'm not throwing shade at Ben Browder. The guy's amazing. He's amazing. I just feel like, even though he's technically our main character, I mean, I feel like they all are like the main character, but we start with him and he gets lost in space. I just don't feel like we're getting a lot from him just yet.
Yeah, in terms of the overall story, we're still in the building spot.
Yeah.
We haven't actually hit John's true instigation point for the full story.
Yep.
But this is one of the reasons why I said we have to hold in for the whole season, because that is slow building. But we are getting to know these characters really well.
I like, so I noticed in the Amazon order, this is like episode 4, episode 5.
Yeah.
And in the viewing order that we're using, this is what, the 7th episode that we've watched.
Yes.
I like placing it much later like this,
Yeah.
closer to what I'm sure was the vision of the creators, because it again, it's part of that atmospheric buildup that I was talking about in the last episode of the Peacekeepers. Again, Krace isn't even in the damn episode,
Right.
And again, he feels like the most significant threat in the episode. Like,
Yeah.
what? It's very well done. But instead
We
we
didn't
get,
even talk about the fire-breathing toads.
I was going to say we get the fire frogs instead, but
Yeah. Yeah, this is another episode that if it came earlier than it did, it just wouldn't have hit the same. It wouldn't have had the same power to it. Especially with Rygel. Wow, if we didn't know enough about Rygel, this would have
Yes.
been like, I just would have been like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah.
it even
Yeah.
it even recontextualizes a little bit why he thought he was being attacked when his shit exploded.
Right? Oh my god! Josh! Wow! It's PTSD! It's wow! That's great! That's really great! Wow. Well done, sir. Well done.
Such a good episode.
Now you see why we've had this whole thing with the trying to organize the right order for the
Yeah.
episodes.
I didn't get it at first, but now I'm very thankful for it. Very,
Same.
very thankful.
And from here on in, from the next episode on, I think we're pretty much following the same order as the Amazon.
Can we talk about the Cheyenne for a minute? I don't have a ton to say other than I
Yeah.
love them. Like, I was immediately from their introduction, like, wow, they look amazing. And this was one of the elements that made me think, wow, they've like upped the budget or the production value because these are complex puppets that look like they're straight out of Star Wars, something like massive budget. Like they just look so good, and there was something menacing about them, but they're also kind of dopey and stupid, which I thought was amazing. And the fire breathing thing, I loved it because I'm like, of course they fucking breathe fire, because why wouldn't they do something crazy?
Fire-breathing toads.
Yeah, like I just, yeah. Once again, the Jim Henson company are bringing their A game, and I love it. Knocked it out of the park.
I was getting big time Doctor Who vibes from the Shang. Just a very like life-sized out there kind of a monster. This is another one of those instances where I really appreciate the unique production design of this show. The design of the Shang ship I really liked, and it's hard to put into words why, except that it's so different than a lot of the kinds of, I guess, sci-fi space design that I'm used to. Like Star Wars was meant to evoke World War I, World War II imagery, and Star Trek was meant to evoke the high seas, kind of ships of the line imagery. And this is just like it. I don't know what it is. It's just I just liked it. The silhouette of the ship almost had like an Apollo lunar module vibe to it.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not sure how deliberate that was, because I wasn't able to really contextualize why that decision might have been made. Other than that, it just looked really great, and the creature design, and like the one guy who kept like coming from above, and he was like, his life signs have ceased.
Ephraim!
Yeah.
Even like speaking of the ships, even the CG looked better in this episode. Like I just feel like everything is stepping up.
The defensive screen looks gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, really
and then
good.
the Shang, when they launched the pods, which looked like bullets, first of all, also really was like, oh, the ship is much bigger than I thought it was. When they kind of did that, I just really liked it.
And we're left with a mystery as well with this episode, because the Shang, as formidable as they are, we know they didn't take out the Zelbinian.
Right, yeah.
So we still don't know who took out the Zelbinian.
It was Pilot. No, I told you he's sus, and I'm gonna figure it out. He is sus.
You're never gonna figure it out.
I'm not, am I?
No, that's true, and I like that angle as well. I also liked that. Oh, but this is the thing about Dargo. Like the fact that he is just that he's a Luxon was enough to intimidate the Shang initially.
Yeah.
Which
also
was like, nope, we're not fucking with that.
that also lends kind of like a him underestimating his own strength vibe as well. You know, because we were talking.
Okay.
I was mentioning like he didn't consider being clever being strong. He also didn't consider that just by virtue of being a Luxon, he would be seen as strong. He doesn't see himself as strong. He doesn't see himself as strong.
Oh.
Well, he's traumatized too. He's been in captivity.
The show is just getting so much more interesting. It's blowing my mind. Like,
And as much as he's declared from the first episode, I will never be captured again. How many times has he been captured or mind controlled?
right. Yeah.
He doesn't trust himself.
No, he doesn't think he's strong. I'm gonna file that away for the next few episodes.
Something I want to say just quickly that I forgot to mention earlier with the whole alien homage thing is that Aeryn is even dressed like Ellen Ripley, like the same color scheme and everything. Like there's no way that was an accident. That was a very deliberate homage. It has to be.
But boy, doesn't it suit her.
Oh yeah, it does. Looks amazing. Yeah, very much so.
And you know my whole when I did the whole video about the problem with 709's catsuit thing?
Right.
This is what she should have been fucking wearing.
Yes, right?
Don't tell me that wouldn't have brought in as many views.
Right.
At one point, you and I are going to talk about Voyager, Sara. I have a lot of thoughts on Voyager, and some of it is costume related.
So the scene where the Sheyang dude gets on the ship, I forget his name, Evren or something. I forget. One of them. Did John call him a gas hole?
Yes.
I'm like, did he say gas hole? I really like that. I thought that was funny.
He absolutely did.
That was very punny. I liked it.
I am beginning to suspect there's a very deliberate pattern to the pop culture references that they have John make in each episode. And that the first one that he makes won't actually be the accurate one for the episode, but that the last one that he makes probably more accurately describes the episode. Because the first one he made was about Titanic.
Yeah.
Which, other than being a shipwreck, this episode really didn't have anything to do with Titanic.
No.
You know, there wasn't any of the Titanic elements. It wasn't a natural disaster. You know,
It wasn't an iceberg.
Right. It wasn't
As far
right
as
ahead.
we know.
As far as we know, but you know. But the last pop culture reference that he made was to the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
My man Sergio Leone with his spaghetti westerns, turning Italy
I haven't seen that for an eternity.
turning Italy into the American West. It's been a while for me too, but I think that there's probably, if not a structure, at the very least an homage here, because the final standoff in the defensive screen room really reflects the what's the scene called? The Ecstasy of Gold standoff between Clint Eastwood's character and the other two, the bad and the ugly, in the cemetery at the very end of that film. The Sheyang is the ugly, and John is the good. And then the fun kind of like Farscapian subversion that I've really come to enjoy is that the Peacekeeper is not actually the bad. And it's the three of them, and then Aeryn Batman's her way into the scene. But I don't know. I feel like there's something there, and I wish I'd watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly more recently than I have.
Me too now.
So I'm a couple of times, that his pop culture references have had nothing to do with the episode, but a lot of the time they do have something to do with the episode. Like you mentioned John Wayne a few episodes ago, and I made up that was because he was identifying with that heroic archetype. the masculine heroic archetype particularly. But in this episode, the peacekeepers who were present, Aeryn and Jelena, were not bad. And I think that's the Farscapian commentary or subversion that it's trying to make.
Okay. Clever.
So,
I like it.
that.
Anybody out there who's seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly more recently than three of us, fill in the
Let us
blanks as
know.
you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite part?
It's going to be my boy Rygel stepping into his power, realizing this lifeless corpse has no power over him anymore. That was just that, and just Rygel's entire arc in this episode are just gorgeous. So well done. That's hands down not even a competition. Like there is a lot of good stuff here, but this stands out so much more than everything else for me.
I really liked the mid-episode conversation between John and Aeryn. After she walks in on them and he chases her down the hallway, and they actually have like an honest conversation about, like, she's actually open with him, and especially, and again, because of how, like, I feel like uncommon that can be on television. I really appreciated that scene. And it was also just really well done. It was just because it was just the two of them. They were square-shouldered. It was so good.
My favorite, I honestly can't choose. It is every single moment of Aeryn in this episode. from start to finish, just all of it. I love it so much. It just, God, this is the strong female character I want to see. I mean, not only this, but I want to see more. But this is a real woman. Kicking ass and being vulnerable and just everything. So I love Aeryn so much.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for listening, folks. Shall we tell the folks where they can hear more from us?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at lack of surprise 1. That's all one word with the number 1 at the end. You can check me out on my other podcast with my friend Ian from Passive the Nerd. That's a little project we're calling Podcast of the Nerds. And you can also check out my work with Chipperish Media on the Still Pretty and Endless podcasts.
I'm over on Instagram behind at Josh Gosdin. So far, it's mostly just food and self-care. Pop on over if either of those things interest you.
And I'm Sara Ezzat. I do the Costume Codex channel on YouTube, where I talk about costumes and meaning and media, and sometimes other things. Had a bit of a depressing one on Canada Day, but it was a good sort of I had a bit of I catharted.
She said the thing.
I said the thing. Yes. Sometimes you need to cathart, and it's nice to have a YouTube channel to do that. Or you can see me post my thoughts periodically on Twitter at BlueStockInSara. And of course, you can see all of us if you come to our Discord server, which is the link for which will be in the show notes or doobly-doo. And of course, if you'd like to support us on Patreon, we would very much appreciate that. And if you didn't know, we watched the episode Thanks God It's Friday Again together and recorded it for a reaction video that is available there. And you can, in fact, see... There's a snippet of it on the YouTube channel where you can see how Jack reacts to Rygel pissing fire.
And if you've been watching us for any amount of time, you already know how I reacted to that. But come and check it out anyway.
You can see them react to the whole episode if you go to Patreon and help us keep the lights on. So thank you. And next episode will be That Old Black Magic. And there's no particular warnings for this one. maybe a little bit of trauma issues, but it should be manageable.
Mm-hmm.
And following that will be DNA Mad Scientist, which has a strong body horror warning on it.
Cool.
Love it.
Probably some of the most difficult stuff for that in the entire series.
I'm excited.
And also on that one, we may have a guest joining us.
Oh, cool.
We may be joined by Ren the Barbarian, whose YouTube channel there will be a link to in our show notes for this episode, as well as definitely for the episode in which she joins us.
Ren the Barbarian, who does those quality Star Trek videos on YouTube.
Yes, Ren the Barbarian, who does those quality Star Trek videos on YouTube.
We're moving up in the world.
Watching Star
Special
Trek
guest stars.
We hope to have more friends guest in the future. But we are starting with Ren. There we are. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, friends.
Cheers.
Bye, y'all.
Ripley and
Ellen Ripley,
Sharon
straight
Connor
up.
rolled into one.
Yes.
Yes.
Sarah Connor.
Sarah
Damn
Connor.
it, she has almost my name and I still did that.